Alright, hi everyone, my name is Dawn, and I thought I wanted to do a little tutorial about how to use this program called Aseprite, A-S-E-P-R-I-T-E. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to call it Aseprite, that's how I say it, sorry if I'm wrong. It's a really great program, it's geared towards pixel art, and I've recommended it to a few people on the Stardew Valley forums, where I'm taking a couple of requests to do some sprites. Um, so I thought maybe while I was working on one of those requests, I'd do a little tutorial. Um, I was going to show you, I already had done this sort of left walking 4-frame animation here. And I was going to show you how to do some animation by walking through me doing these 4-frame down walk animation, but unfortunately, as I have never done a tutorial before, I accidentally recorded 30 minutes of this white section of my screen over here, and a little bit of the color wheel. So, I mean, hopefully this one won't be 30 minutes. Hopefully on my second try I'll do a little better. And I check I'm recording the whole screen this time, so yeah, here we go. I've never done this before, bear with me. I don't have anything written down, I'm just sort of going through it. A little chaotic. I'll try to get right into it. If you want to know a little bit about me, I will maybe talk a little bit about that at the end. I can't even talk anymore. I just did this for half an hour. For no reason. Okay, so I'm not sure what I'm going to show you because it would have been nice to show you some of this walk cycle. I still have the right and up portions to do, but the right is just a copy paste of the left flipped, and the down, I just don't want to show you how to draw a dog's butt. It's not as much fun, although all parts of the dog are very cute. I'm doing this dog over here. I have my reference picture open, that's important, of Mango, very cute dog, and yeah, I'm not sure what part of Mango, what action of Mango's I'm going to show you. I'm going to flip through, I have open in this frame, this viewport on Aseprite, another dog that I did, the Shiba Inu, for reference, just so I know which frames I need to do and what order they go in and whatnot, and sort of what each frame should look like. And I should say that these are all faithful to the animation style of the original sprites by Chucklefish. There are a few things that if I was just animating this on my own, I might do a bit differently, particularly in the walk cycle. You can see on every frame of this 4-frame walk cycle, his paws are kind of on the ground, which to me looks a little bit like he's shuffling his feet. But that's how they did it in the original spreadsheet, and it looks fine in game, so it's faithful to that. So this was faithful to the original dog sprite, and now I'm using this in turn as a reference for this new one. So where should I start? I'll try to be a little more organized than I was in my 30-minute take that is of the white screen. But again, I've never done this before, so please bear with me, and if I ramble on too long, I'm sorry. I want to try to help people. Someone else should probably do this, but I'm going to do it. So the first thing maybe I will tell you about is but this interface is really like a mouse organization friendly, one hand on the mouse, one hand on your keyboard kind of a thing. Familiar way you would use Photoshop probably, but there are some differences. But yeah, mouse friendly. So for instance, to get this preview frame here, all I have to do is like drag it. And here I can make another one by dragging it down here. Oh, look at that, that's quite lovely. Just shows you where it's going to go, and you can drop it, you can do whatever sort of organization you like. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is at the bottom here, you see I have this, that's for this guy, focus on this window. I have this, what should I call it, this shelf of the animation frames, and also the layers. So they're the same sort of viewport down here. And I'm not sure if it's visible by default if it is in this version. I think in some versions it is not. The latest one maybe it is. But to show and hide this, all you have to do is press tab. I think it's also in this view menu up here at the top, but yeah, just press tab, there it is. There's a lot of useful context menus, and I often use those if I can't remember what the shortcut is. There are lots of shortcuts, but I'm not going to keep track of them. So for example, if I need a new layer, context menu, here we go, new layer. Same for frames, things like that. I think that, yeah, it is. So Shift N is to create a layer, and Alt N is to create a new frame. If you want to do that. And something that was just added that is really helpful is these are called tags. And what they do is isolate frames so that when you're previewing your animation, it knows to only loop the section that you're in, so the tag that you're currently in. So I want to preview this, it loops through everything in this down tag. And if I'm, oops, pause that and go over here, it loops everything in here. To navigate these frames and to play your animation, you can use the arrow keys to go through the frames. And to play it, you press Enter. And you can see that there's controls here also. Yeah, so that's I'm using the arrow keys all the time, comparing how one frame looks compared to the next one. Like that. Oh, I'm already forgetting what I'm gonna say. That's a great sign for how good this tutorial is gonna be. All right, so I'm gonna decide if there's nothing else I want to talk about. Here, I'm going to decide which part of this animation that I'm going to walk through and tell you about. Or maybe I should tell you about the interface first. I think I'm probably going to show you me doing this sitting animation. It would have been nice to do a walk frame, walk cycle. That's what I really would have liked to do. But unfortunately, I already did it and I don't want to do it again. Next time I'll know how to not record blank sections of the screen. Yeah, I'll probably be doing this, but maybe first I'll talk to you about the palette, because I ended up talking about that in my first take for quite a bit. Let's see if I can do a better version. So I have this open still. Here's this sprite sheet. It's already in a sheet format. I made this I made this file because I wanted to do a preview of all the colors I had done, so I was looping an animation through all these colors. But the convenient thing is that you can see on the side here all these different ramps that I have for each color. So Aseprite, and this is kind of a really nice thing to do when you're working with pixel art. Well, depending on your preference. I have some pixels selected there, and I'm not sure why. A really nice thing about Aseprite that lets you work with indexed colors. RGB color is when each of these pixels is mapped to this RGB value, or this is in like hex format or whatever you call it. So if I draw pixels in one color and another color, the information that tells this pixel what color to be is be this color, this red, this green, this blue, whatever. In index color mode, I'll switch back, and sometimes I'm not going to get into that. That's too much to explain. I'm trying to keep this video more condensed this time. If you're in indexed color mode, the information that is stored in these pixels about what color this should be, instead of saying an RGB value, it says your index number 29, which means it's the 29th color in the palette. If that makes sense. And consequently, if I change which RGB value is in this index 29, I can open up my palette editor by pressing F4. If I change what color this is, it's going to change all of the pixels that are index 29. So if I change index 29 to this green color, and I switch to the dog that uses that color ramp, you'll see that all of the pixels that are mapped to index 29 reflect the color in index 29. If I was in, I'll undo that. If I was in RGB color and I change this color to green, you see this doesn't change because it's saying, no, this is this yellow color, and it wasn't mapped. It wasn't indexed. Does that make sense? Hopefully? Okay. I did that a lot better than my first take, so maybe this will be better. Don't get your hopes up, though. So this viewport or shelf over here that displays your palette. It's reconfigurable. I like to have it the width of the ramps that I'm using, and then I can organize my colors nicely. You can see them all laid out, and I have my extra colors over here and then just some blank ones so that it's still on these nice columns and rows. This indexed palette is really nice to work with because it has sort of ramps built in, and yeah, it's just nice. And again, it's sort of mouse friendly. I can select things, and I'll try to go through this in a quick and efficient manner. How I use this when I'm doing spray work. So let's work on top of this white dog. Let's take a look at him. So he's using this ramp, and when I say ramp, what I mean is, if you are not familiar, is sort of a series of colors that are interpolated with each other. So I'll make a new ramp down here. Let's say I want to make sort of a weird purple dog. Now what I intuitively want to do is select this color from my color wheel that's displayed down here, and this does change my brush color, but unfortunately what you think is going to happen might not happen. Right now I'm still in, remember I changed my color mode RGB. I put it over here, but this is nothing to do with my index color mode. So if I'm working in index, which I do want to, and I'll switch back, and I try to draw in here, I'm getting this gray color for some reason. Like I want to use, I selected this green color, I'm still here, but it's like not working. And the reason is because this is indexed, and what I am brushing on here is going to approximate to the closest color in the index. So this is your brush color. It doesn't create a new index for automatically. If I want to create a new index, I select the color and I press this button, add the foreground color to the palette. Or I don't want it there, let's say I want to put it here, I can edit each of these. So I can click to select it, press F4 to bring up the palette editor. It's probably also, you can get it from the menu, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's somewhere in there. This one? Oh yeah, okay, it's this button. I should have wondered what that was. So I can press this button or press F4 to bring up the palette editor, and then if I'm changing this, it's changing the palette. So yeah, let's see, I want to make a weird purple dog, maybe. Yeah, okay. And except this is I'll make this the lightest color, and I put it in the wrong place. I sort of have them ramp dark to light in this way, so I can, if I hover over this outline of my selected one, I can actually just drag it. And there's a few shortcuts, like if you hold Control, you copy it, which is helpful. And is there another one? Maybe. Oh yeah, if you hold Shift, you're just no. Nope, I don't know. Don't listen to me. Okay, so I'm gonna move it over to this light thing. And then if I choose the darkest color, I can actually make a gradient between them. So for my outline color, let's do this. I'll copy it over here, and we'll just moving things around to try to keep things in order. And I'm pressing delete to get rid of these extra ones, or you can drag this little pause button to sort of get whatever amount of space you need or don't want. And then I will edit this and make it a little darker. And to do that, I will use this very helpful tool, this relative editor. Like you can go in absolute mode, which means whatever color I pick here is going to go here, or in my relative mode, and I want to be in hue, saturation, brightness. If I change this, it's going to be relative to the color it already is, rather than, like, I'll be darkening it rather than making it this amount of dark. Maybe I'll demonstrate that again a little later. Yeah, so I'll choose sort of a dark color for my little guy, and then if I select this entire thing, I'm just holding down, dragging. If I select this sort of strip of indexes on the palette, I can go here and say, in this little drop-down menu, and say gradient, and it automatically does a ramp, a color ramp between these two colors, interpolates them at equal spacing. So now I have this, and you'll notice that there's actually, in my guys I already have, there's a much bigger jump between this outline color and the darkest shading color. So let's say, oh, I don't want that. I want to lighten this one up. I can either select all of these, and maybe I will make all of this a little bit brighter, or I can just do this one and ramp between them again, but just for the sake of demonstration, I will select these four colors, and I want to make them brighter. I'll use my relative tool mode, I don't know, and brighten them all up together. That's really nice that you can, and if I want the hue change, I can do that, right? It's just really nice to be able to edit entire blocks of color. And even better because when you edit that entire block of color, it's reflected in the art you've already done. So, for example, this guy is using this plain white ramp here. If I am, woo, apparently it's not using the, yeah. Okay, this is, something's funny here because this color should also be edited. Maybe I'll switch to a different guy, I swear. Yeah, this cream colored guy. So if I change the hue, see, it's changing all the art I've already done when I change this index because this is still pointing to index number whatever this is. So when I change these colors, they all change, which is really helpful. So yeah, Aseprite, it's great, guys. It's so great. But back to my purple ramp. Yeah, I want to map these colors onto my dog, so I will for this demonstration, I'll just copy paste it on top of those indexes, and yeah, there we go. And then let's say there's not, you can't really see the difference very much. I need to change the contrast, the difference between those. I'll take this guy. This is what I said earlier. I'll put the brightness and maybe the saturation down a little bit, and then I say I think that's probably going to be bigger. That's a bigger difference between, you know, lightest and darkest. I'll redo the gradient. It's a little better of a ramp. I have my crazy purple dog. Woo! Grape colored dog. That's great. So yeah, that's sort of hopefully informative about how the palette works. And I wonder how long I've been recording. 16 minutes. This is probably going to be even longer than the take that I messed up. So, wow, forgive me. Oh, and I was going to show you the absolute, right? If I'm on absolute mode and I have all of these selected and I want to edit them, it's going to change. I'll use this one so you can see it. It's going to change all of the colors absolutely to this value, rather than if I'm on relative, darkening them all the same amount. I do not know why that's on a different index. I wonder if my sprite is messed up in my thing that I sent out to everyone. Oh well, I'm just gonna ignore that for now. So back to this guy. So let's do the sitting animation. Just name this something random. Where am I? Okay, let's do, how many frames is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to fix this timer. So let's do these 4 frames. I'm sorry I'm not doing a walk cycle, but yeah, I just, for any of these segments of animation, all I do is look exactly at what Concerned Ape did when he did the originals. So making your own animations is a whole different ballgame. I do that too, but that's not what I'm doing right now. Okay, so I want to create a new tag. I think I already explained how this works. If I didn't, here we go. It's just so that you loop in the same amount. I click on the frame boxes, not on the, this is like the contents of the frame inside the layer. So these have a different context menu. The cell is a different context menu than the actual frame. So I'm clicking on the frame number, saying new tag, and this is called sits. He's sitting in these frames, so that when I press enter, it's looping just through those. I'm going to do the same thing on this guy over here. I'm going to make some new frames. I will tag them sitting. I will press Alt-N to make new frames. Oh, no, because that tags them. That's kind of weird. I made a new frame and I included it in this tag. I wonder if I can... Oops. I'm so sorry, guys. Empty frame. No, it's doing it. So this is something I haven't really encountered before, usually because I tag things afterwards rather than as I'm working on them. So I'll make a new frame and then I'll just fix this tag. Whoops. Cancel that. I'll remove the tag. So I'll make 4 new frames just for the sake of showing you. Okay, I'm making a new tag. This one is walking left. These 4 are going to be new tag, sits, and then as I'm working and I press preview, it will loop through just those. If I haven't said that 3 times. Okay, so let's look at this one for reference. In the first frame, of the sitting thing, he's already kind of hunched over because he's moving right from the last frame of this walk cycle where he's like flat and he's sitting down a little bit. So I want to look and see what position the body is in when I'm doing the corresponding frame of my new sprite. So he's sort of dropping his hindquarters. Both front legs are kind of straight. So I probably shouldn't have copied this frame from the animation I've already done. I should have copied the one where he looks straight him down like this. So I'll copy that over. And this is sort of familiar if you use Photoshop, I'm using Control A to highlight everything, Control C, Control V, you know, copy paste, you know this stuff. So usually what I do is I start working with the marquee tool and then I do pixel by pixel after I've sort of moved things around that I can recycle. So for example, I gotta drop his hindquarters a little bit and they'll all get cleaned up. Just maybe 1 pixel is probably good enough for this teeny little dog. It's really a challenge, especially if you're doing smaller sprites, to convey information in a limited amount of space. And I'll talk more about that when I'm showing you the face. And I want to move this leg forward a little bit. Again, looks terrible, but I clean it up afterwards. So that's pretty much, I think, all that happens in this first frame is he drops his hunches a little bit. He might move his head a little bit, but we'll see how it looks when I start getting going. So then I just go back in and I clean it up, and it does take a little bit of finicky work, and I just like as a personal characteristic of me is that I'm super picky. When you're trying to convey that limited amount of information, you really have to pay close attention to how things are perceived when you're out here. Because you go in here and you're like, oh yeah, this line makes sense. But if I look at my preview and just from experience, I feel like it kind of looks funny to have this continuous line from the bottom of the ear out here, like it looks like it's broken his back or something. So you got to kind of work. Curves are especially difficult. It might be a little bit better, but now I feel like this should be a little bit closer because his body's only so long and it's probably yeah. So again, cycling back and forth between frames and just trying to feel out what this body position should be like and how it looks, how each line looks, how each pixel placement looks, and you can honestly be so finicky with this and stare at things for hours, and it's not fun. So maybe something like that. We'll keep working on it. So I could also talk a whole bunch about shaping, but I just want to show you how the program works. So yeah, I'm using the marker tool, I'm using the brush tool. One thing I'll mention is that I'm always, when I'm picking colors over here, I'm using Alt. I'm holding down Alt to bring up the eyedropper tool. If you're looking for it in here, it's kind of funny. It's bundled in with the eraser. So if you hold down on this, the eraser tool, the eyedroppers are hidden in a group there, which is really strange. I thought to sort of put the eyedropper and the eraser together, but I think the reason is that when I am erasing, and I've already done it a couple of times, I actually stay on the pencil tool and just select transparent as my color. And it's just faster and easier to go back and forth between things that way than to switch tools. I mean, there's also, you know, you can use, I think N is pencil or R is eraser, no, R, E is eraser. So you could do it that way. What is the circle? Oh, pencil B. Yeah, okay. So anyway, oh, actually, you know, it even changes. I don't want to get into this. Okay, so sorry guys, again, this is the first time we've done this. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's just a faster way, I feel, to erase is to just switch to the transparent color. Where were we? So I'm with this little guy. I gotta fix up his outlines and his legs. You'll notice that I'm using these 5 colors. I'm not using a different color for shading. I'm using, like, I don't have a second color ramp of shade colors, because I could do that, right? I could make some sort of bluer tones for the shadows that correspond with each of these shades of his coat, right? So like in my reference picture, these colors correspond to sort of the real observed, or not observed, I don't want to, this is art stuff, the actual color of his coat are these colors. I could do sort of some shadowy you see on the side of his face. I could use another set of colors to reflect like when these colors are in shade, basically. But instead, because I want to work with a limited palette, because it's truer to sort of the style and how I like to work, I'm using these limited colors, and I'm sort of have to negotiate using them to portray the coat color or to portray sort of the volume of volume of this dog, like where he's in shadow, where what his underbelly is, right? And I'm looking at this pixel in particular, right here, when I'm talking about that. Because obviously he doesn't have like a big brown spot here. He has a bit of shadow here, right? So I'm using the same color that I'm using for sort of this area, this part of his coat, as a shadow. And yeah, so there's negotiations to be had, like if I'm using this one color ramp to portray both those kinds of information, I'll call it. Yeah, it's hard to convey in a small amount. When I was talking about this on my first take, I was using the example of the tail. So the tail in this down walking sprite, you'll see it's curly, right? And so when he's walking towards us, how do I convey that his tail is curled towards us and sort of wagging back and forth? So I have this bright pixel here, supposedly representing in this view this section, if you can see me. Man, I don't know how well my mouse shows up on the capture, but this section of the tail that's sort of forward, curled forward, the sort of showing the underside of his tail, I'm trying to convey that with this bright pixel, whereas with the darker pixels, that's supposed to be sort of this farther away. Like I'm trying to, the bright pixel sort of moves it forward, the dark pixel's kind of moving back. Art theories or whatever. But yeah, when you only have, you know, this 4 pixel area that I'm working in, it's hard to convey that kind of information. So that's what I mean when I say like conveying information. There's all this information that you would see in real life. Like if you're looking at this dog, you see, oh, here's the shadow, here's the, you know, the tail's curling or not curling or whatever. You only have 4 pixels to show that information. And that's really challenging in pixel art, and I really enjoy that kind of challenge. And I said I wasn't going to talk about working in pixel art, I was going to talk about the program, so whoops. Now, as you can see, yeah, I'm already at 27 minutes. This is even longer than my first take, so sorry guys, I'm only on 1 frame. So maybe I won't do the whole animation for that reason. Maybe I'll just show you a couple of frames and how I work. So yeah, he's ducked his butt down a little bit. We'll go to frame 2, so I can select this frame, I will copy it and delete this and paste it into my my next frame, and I will edit it a little further. So the next frame, he's sort of got his butt further down, his tail is starting to uncurl, and his legs have moved forward even more, and his head actually has moved back a little bit. If I recall correctly, yeah, it's sort of is moving in a diagonal, so move back, up, it's because it's moving in sort of a diagonal direction, but only 1 pixel at a time, so probably do something similar here. But he's such a small dog, he probably doesn't have to move very far, so we'll see how it goes. I hope I'm telling you enough about the program. It's not super different from Photoshop. It just has sort of these quirks and these specializations for pixel art that are really helpful. Even things like the zoom, like it only zooms to fixed, like 100, 200%. And the shortcuts for that are actually the number keys, so 1 to 1, except that the program is automatically, the program's 1 to 1 is already larger. Like you can see every pixel in this UI is larger than 1 pixel. So 100%, 200%, 300%, I can press 1, 2, 3 to get to those zoom levels, which is nice. Whereas in Photoshop, if you're zooming, you know, it uses sub-pixel rendering and like interpolates. And this is all just fixed, which is really nice when you're working in pixel art. So yeah, there's also a 1 to 1 button down here. Where was I? So, did I move this button in the wrong place? Might have. No, I didn't. Okay. So I'm going to move him down a little more, just like he does here. Boop, boop, right? Want to look at that? Move his butt down a little more, his legs move forward. I'll have to clean this up quite a bit if I want to convey the information that his paws have a joint in them, right? So you can see here he goes sort of from straight up and down to this 1 pixel here that kind of conveys that there's a fold, a a joint, whatever. I'm not using my words. So same thing on this guy. He looks so deformed right now. So his butt moves down, his feet move a little bit forward, his tail uncurls a little bit. So yeah, I'm just going to delete that because I'm probably going to have to redraw it. Again, using lots of the marquee tool to move things around and delete parts, and then I go back in and fix pixel by pixel outline and shading. And did I say his head? Yeah, his head moves back. So, oops. Let's move his head back a little bit. And I can hold a shift, yeah, to add to my selection. It might be the same as Photoshop. I don't know. I don't use Photoshop that much. So you can see that kind of makes sense already. But I don't have to finish the entire thing and then look at my frames and go, that doesn't make sense at all, right? So I've just used the marquee tool, move some things around in here, and I can see that the motion, even though this is obviously he's missing his tail and his feet look really weird, but you can kind of see the motion makes sense. And I'm zooming in and out, but really I can just look at this preview. A little janky, but you know, we'll keep working on him, see how he goes. So, tail unfurling. Let's try that. Curves are really hard. Curves are hard, guys. And I want to, even as, yeah, the tail is much longer here than I just drew it, so I don't like that. Maybe it's still a little bit curled. I hope you can't hear my laundry getting done. This is a really bad time to be recording. The washer's going nuts. Oh, this is much thicker than the tail really is. Yeah, you can be very picky about drawing your curves and making sure every single pixel's in the right place. It's not as easy as you think. It's such a little, there's so little pixels. You would think it would be so much faster than doing a big digital painting or something, but honestly, it's yeah, it probably is faster, but I don't do any digital painting. But it's it's not as straightforward as people think, I think, sometimes. Yeah, see, I'm going back and forth, and I'm like, doesn't really make a lot of sense. It looks like not right to me for some reason. Maybe it needs to move down with his butt, like it's in the same place. Makes a little more sense. It needs to be 1 pixel shorter. No, then it looks like it's, yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You really had to fuss to try to make it look, and maybe it looks fine to you, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but going back and forth with the arrow keys to compare these frames. So much silence you're listening to, I feel bad. I'm not really, I discovered in my first take, I'm not really great at talking and working at the same time, but maybe I will try to just make this a little bit less stupid. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I started using this program, which I said I would do at the end if I had time. Maybe I'll do that now. So I have a background in visual art. I went to art school for a little while. I didn't finish. I started doing a different degree, but it's my background, and I love doing it. And I have a few friends who are programmers, computer scientists, and that kind of thing, software engineers, etc., etc. And they like to do game jams, which are competitions. Well, they're not competitions because there's no prize, nobody wins, but they're events where you can go, often for free, and make a game in a very short, limited amount of time. So like 48 hours, sometimes 2 or 3 days, kind of a thing. The ones I've gone to are Global Game Jam, which happens all over the world at multiple locations, and I go to one in Toronto called Toe Jam. And they are, where'd that come from? Whoops, don't want that there. I don't know what that is. They're really great, and because I am background visual art, I am the artist for our team called Loft Games. We've made a few cool games. You can look us up on the Google or whatever, maybe. We made a few games at these jams, and it's just a really good time. And I started doing sprite work for these games, and I started using, like, I think GIMP mostly, Photoshop if it was installed in the computers at the place we were working. but you know, it's not made for pixel art exactly, and like it works fine. It's nothing really wrong with them. But a friend suggested this program to me, Aseprite, and I don't know anything else like it. It's really great. It has, you know, having the layer frame system and the zooming and the tools and just like things like um, the palette management especially. It's really nice. It's just made for pixel art, so it's that's what I use. That's my go-to thing. I'll give a shout out to, I've done a little bit of voxel editing too, which is just like pixel art, but it's 3D. You use like cubes, and it's called Magic of Voxel, and that it also has really great palette management and another sort of indie. I'm pretty sure these are both indie projects made by each like one person that are really great if you want to make art for games. Here's another example where I'm using this dark color that I'm using sort of for the top. See this more orange color on the top of the coat in my reference picture. I'm using it here for shading, so this foot is in the background, it's underneath him, it's receded. And yeah, I'm not good at talking and working at the same time. I'll probably do a lot more work on this. I feel like this book looks really small. Kind of, my spine does something weird here. So probably working on this. And maybe, unlike my first take where I did this entire thing really easily, I feel like I have to think a little bit more for this sitting one. So maybe I won't finish it in this video just because now I've been here for 36 minutes and mostly I'm unorganized rambling. So maybe I'll cut off here. I told you a little bit of the program. If there's anything else you want to know, let me know. I'm sorry, someone else probably could have done a much better job, a more comprehensive thing about the program. I didn't talk about all the tools here, but a lot of them are self-explanatory if you've ever used Photoshop. And you know, things like the magic select is hidden in this group. I could get it by holding down. Yeah, I'll try to cut myself off here. It's probably lots more I could say, but I think that's sort of the basics. Oh, okay, hold on. I just remembered there's one more thing to know that's sort of important if you're going to use this program, and that is it has built-in support for sprite sheets. So I will go through that. You can also save directly to an animation by saving it as a GIF. My mouse is doing something weird right now. So maybe I'll show you how to do that. In fact, I'll do it with this one since it was assembled and I sort of put it back into frames. So I'll show you how to save this as a sprite sheet. Now it's going to be really long. This takes a long time, but just I take a long time. So yeah, right in the file menu, you can save it and it saves it as, oh no wait, yeah, you can save it. This one is actually, I've opened up a GIF and it has each of the frames in the GIF. The native file format is ASC. .asc, so that's sort of like a PSD, right? Has all the information, palette information inside of it, and frames and tags and all that. But you can also save as directly to an animation, and it assembles these frames into a GIF file. I am a GIF person, not a GIF, graphical user interface, graphical. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten what GIF stands for. Image file, graphical image file, probably. Not a graphical image file. So, not that I'm gonna call people out on it. I'm not that mean. Yeah, so you can save it directly to an animation by doing that. I want to make a sprite sheet, and to do that I say I will export a sprite sheet. And then it asks you about saving it by how many rows do I want, and oh no, I think the original file had 5. It was either 5 or 4. Oops. Number of columns, sorry. I'm having trouble. I want to do 5. I want to do 5. Yeah, okay. So it was like if you try to enter an incompatible number, it jumps to the next compatible number. So I was trying to write like I was trying to just put 5 at the start, and I'm like, you can't do 536 columns, so it just jumped to 36, which was the next closest thing, so I highlighted the whole thing and pressed 5. There we go. So 5 columns. And it's actually nice that you can't enter an incorrect number of columns that isn't compatible with the number of frames you have. Oh, I should also mention there's actually some blank frames in the sprite sheet, and that is so that they align nicely, sort of like what I was talking about with the palette, how I have things organized in nice columns and rows by having it 5 wide when my ramp is 5 colors. Anyway, so it's sort of like that, right? There's some blank, just like there's blank ones in my palette. This is disorganized though, don't look at this. So there's blanks to space things out, and you want to keep those blank frames in there when you're working with your things, so that when you save it to the sprite sheet, everything is in the right place, so that when you go in game, your dog is not walking and suddenly sitting for one frame and then go, you know, because it reads each frame in the file for certain positions. So you want to keep everything where it's supposed to be. I'll show you the assembled sprite sheet and say that again, so that just in case it's not clear. So you can do also like a strip, but in Stardew Valley, it's in sort of a matrix of 5 columns. So we'll do that, and it automatically knows what width and height that you want based on the size of your sprite. So we'll just go ahead and say export, and then I'll try to open that up. I don't know if it's in there. Open. How did I say? I forget what I saved it as. This is the Shiba. What did I say this is? Shiba.ase. Okay. So open Shiba.ase. Oh no, sorry, not ASE. What am I? I want to open. It's a PNG. Yeah, so it saves it as a PNG, which is exactly what you want it to be. Oh boy. Okay, Shiba. Where is it? ASE's used. Oh, Shiba sheet. Okay, so it puts a hyphen in there and sheet speed. So there it is. Whee! Okay. Oh, and it opened. Sorry, in this one. Oh, I think I already had it open, maybe, possibly. So whatever. Okay, so this is what it outputs, and this is exactly what you want to put back into the game's files when you recompress it or put it in the XNB file. If you don't know how to do that, maybe I'll make another video. I don't know. Maybe you already know how to do that. I hope so. Or not because I think you're stupid if you don't know, but just because I hope you've been able to find that information. This is what outputs, and you'll see, there we go, we have a blank frame here between the sleeping, and this is part of his sitting and tail wagging. It sort of jumps between these two. Where is he? This one and this one, right? Boop, 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 his tail's moving. And the last frame is also blank, because the running frame is only, there's only 3 running frames, which is honestly a little bit weird, but it's cool. It looks good in game. So you want to make sure that when you're editing, you keep those in there. Otherwise, when you assemble your sheet, this guy is going to go here. These guys, this one's going to be up here. These 2 are going to be working. And then when your dog is running, he's going to be like sit, run, run, sit, run, run, because it's trying to, it's trying to read. Oh no, he'll be blank for one. Whatever. Okay, the basics are, it's going to read these 3 positions. Oh, I don't have my marquee tool selected. It's going to save these. It's going to, excuse me, I'm so sorry. It's going to read in game these 3 frames, these 3 positions of this sprite sheet when the dog is running, right? So it's going to go, when it's running, use this, this, and this. If those are, like, the running sprites are not what's in there, this square of pixels, it's just going to take whatever's in there. So if it's blank, it's going to take it blank. And if the file isn't even that large, I don't know what it'll do. It's going to freak out. It's going to glitch or crash or something. So just make sure you keep those in there. And conversely, when you are opening the original, I don't think I have a saved PNG of anymore, but when you're opening the original sprite sheet for the dog to start editing, and you want to divvy it up into frames like this, it looks funny, 50%. You want to divvy it up into individual frames because it's nicer to work with. At least for me it is. I'm pretty sure for everyone it is. Aseprite has Aseprite has really good compatibility with spreadsheets, or it's built in to read them. So I can say import spreadsheet if I've already opened the file, or like I can select a file from, if you want to go right away, you can just say select and pick the dog file. But if you already have it open, it will just assume you're trying to open this one. I can drag these lines around so that I have one dog in each box, or I know it's actually 32. I could type it in 32 by 32. And it shows you, okay, these are what the frames will be in these green boxes. Right, so you drag these blue lines to select the size of each frame, and then I can just press enter, and now my dog is nicely in frames, ready to edit, ready to put some tags in there if I want to loop sections, stuff like that. Okay, so now I think now I think I'm done. How many? 45 minutes in. I'm so sorry, guys. This is terrible. But hopefully it was helpful for some of you. I think I'm probably going to be way too lazy to chop it up and edit it and try to make it more condensed, but yeah. So if you want to start making pixel art and animations, use this program. It's really great, and I hope I was able to help you a little bit with the process of how you go about it and how to use, you know, the palette and spreadsheets and all that. That's definitely long enough. So sorry. Thanks for sticking with me if you did, and hope you find it helpful. So yeah, see you around. Bye. Good night.